Hi, I'm Hugh from Lovereading4kids.com. I'm here to interview Michael Grant, the author of the new must-read book, Gone. So, for people who haven't read your new book, Gone, could you please give us a short synopsis of the book?
Gone is this, I guess we kind of think of it as a little science fiction, a little bit fantasy horror, and which genre exactly it fits in is, I don't know, and probably not relevant. Here's the essence of Gone is this, that one day, for reasons that nobody understands at first, everybody at the age 15 and over simply disappears. So every adult is gone, every parent, every teacher, every police officer, everybody in authority. And the kids are left behind in this place, which is, they come to call the phase, which is 20 miles in diameter, and they can't get out, and no one can get in, and they have no explanation for why this has happened to them. They soon discover that there's a sort of a countdown going, that when each of them turns 15, they likewise disappear, and again without explanation. And since it seems that the rules of nature have been somewhat rewritten in this space, the kids themselves, the animals around them, many are mutated, changing in unpredictable and often dangerous ways.
Why did you choose in your book to give the children superpowers? The book could have worked very well without them.
I think that's a really good question. The book, of course, could have worked, but it would have been a very different kind of thing. I wanted a sense of out-of-control danger. I understand that a big part of the fun, a big part of the danger in Gone, a big part of the jeopardy, as we would say as writers, is the direct conflicts between kids. But I wanted a wild card. I wanted something else that would continue to ratchet it up as we went along, something that was completely unpredictable, that we wouldn't know what it would mean. We wouldn't know where it was going to go. And I wanted, frankly, to blow stuff up. And so I thought that'd be a nice, fun addition to the thing.
When you were writing Gone, how much were you influenced by Lord of the Flies, the book? Because the two novels seem quite similar.
It's a really strange thing, but I was about halfway through Gone before I realized it was Lord of the Flies. And obviously I read Lord of the Flies and seen the movie and everything else, but I was surprised myself, and I actually said, we'll bleep the actual words, but bleep, it's Lord of the Flies, to my wife, and we realized that we had that, we were on the same theme. I've tried to acknowledge that, and if you look at the map of Perdido Beach that's in the books, there was a Golding Street. There was a little shout out to the author, who I inadvertently ended up echoing to a certain extent. But anything you've read is going to influence what you write later on, and obviously that had some effect. And it had an effect indirectly in that I was clearly modeling, I knew that I was being inspired by the TV show Lost, which in itself was probably modeled in large part on Lord of the Flies. So
is sci-fi your favourite genre of book?
Well, that's a really good question. It's hard to choose between different genres, which I like most. I like books of all different kinds. But, if you're asking, if I'm on a desert island, what am I going to take with me? Yeah, it'll probably be a science fiction book. I'm actually reading a sci-fi book right now, and a couple of other things as well. I just came off of, I got to read an early read of Stephen King's next book, which is cool. That's horror, but it also has a science fiction element to it, called Under the Dome. And I'm reading another science fiction book right now. Yeah, probably I'll read science fiction over anything else.
Which other authors have influenced your work, do you think?
Well, first of all, I think as a writer, everybody you've read influences your work. And there's so many disparate people that I look at. Particularly, I look at Patrick O'Brian. It's not directly connected at all with what I'm doing. But he wrote a long series of books, and it's set in the early 19th century. And his construction of series kind of interests me, so that he was willing to do certain kind of bold things in terms of how to construct a series was interesting to me. But clearly the guy who most directly has influenced me as a writer is Stephen King. That's the guy I look up to as a writer. That's the guy I kind of want to be if I on the off chance that I grow up someday. I don't want to be Stephen King. So yeah, probably him more than anybody else. But that being said, I imagine I became a writer in large part because of Tolkien. Lord of the Rings would probably be the start of my becoming a writer.
So what would you say would be your all-time favourite book?
Oh, I think I'd probably, there's an awful lot of books I like and admire, but I think the one that made me a writer probably more than any other was Lord of the Rings. And I know that's such an awful cliche coming from a person who writes in speculative fiction at all. But yeah, it was Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings changed the way I looked at the world. And I've probably read it 5 or 6 times, including once when traveling cross country across the states, driving with my wife. I read the entire thing out loud to her as we were driving. So it was opened her eyes too, I suppose.
What are your personal views on nuclear power, which is one of the central points of Gone?
It's a very interesting question. I'm not anti-nuclear power, and it concerned me when I was doing this that I thought, well, this is going to look like I have some sort of political or ideological axe to grind. So let me take just a moment and explain this. First of all, Gone and the sequels are necessarily in part political, because we're essentially creating a new society. All authorities are removed, now we have to create this new society within the phase. And so a lot of these issues and ideas are going to come up. And I do have my own opinions on all sorts of things. But my goal in books is, as it always has been in writing for anybody, is not to be dogmatic and not to be, I don't have a particular program, I'm not grinding an ideological axe. My job, I think, is to put ideas out there and possibilities for kids to look at, and so that they can think about it and draw their own conclusions. On nuclear power, I don't know, I guess, I'd rather not have one in the backyard, but we have one where I live, not too far away, and it doesn't bother me at all, and I suppose it's something that's probably going to be necessary, and there are worse things that could be built in my backyard. I don't know, pig farming or something would be worse. Rather than a nuclear power plant than a pig farm. How's that for an endorsement for nuclear power?
How do you think your children would fare if they found themselves in Perdido Beach?
It's a good question. We've actually thought my son Jake would have a possible career as a supervillain, that we would find him at some point living in a hollowed-out volcano with lots of uniformed henchmen being taken on by James Bond. So we think that might be a good career path for him. So he'd probably be fine. I think he might be working for Kane by the time we're done. And my daughter is pretty tough. My daughter and I, she loves to box, which I know sounds crazy. She's a tiny little girl. We have boxing gloves. And boy, she can hit. So I found that she gets through enough, and I try to block them, but she nails me hard enough that I had to buy the headgear thing. And still, she rings your bell sometimes. So I imagine she would hold her own pretty well.
Gone is the first book in a series. When is the next one going to come out? And can you give me a short preview?
The next book in the series is called Hunger, which I think tells you quite a bit about what the book is going to be. The kids in Perdido Beach are going to be really hungry, and it's going to be, it's about all different kinds of hunger. So there will be the physical hunger, there will be psychological hunger, romantic hunger. It's pretty much, it's about hunger.